Hi there! With our air guns becoming more and more powerful, they also start to consume more and more air. So being air self-sufficient is almost a must these days in order to top off our air tanks or your gun to 300 bar or 250 bar, whatever you feel to. But those home 300 bar compressors sometimes can be very expensive. But there are also some budget-friendly options on the market as well. So in this video, we're going to take a look at one of those budget-friendly options and see how it does. Now these days there are quite a lot of these budget-friendly air compressors on the market, all looking more or less similar with some subtle differences left and right. But those budget-friendly compressors came a long way these days. The company I have chose for is a company called Vevor with their 300 bar compressor, home compressor to fill up your air guns or your air gun tanks as well. Now, if you like what you see right here and you would like to try out one for yourself, you can always find the link to this compressor in the video description down below. This way it also helps my channel a little bit. So, without further ado, let's first see what you get in the box. Actually, the box it comes in was also quite nicely done. It's a very sturdy box and delivery was quite fast, bringing the compressor to me in one piece without anything broken. The first thing you will see, of course, is a manual, which also gives a little bit more explanation about how to set it up and stuff, and what you should do and shouldn't do, what kind of oil you should use, etc. So please read it before you start using the compressor, even though I will explain most of it in a later part of this video. You also get yourself a cardboard box that you see right here. In that cardboard box, you get your power cord to put it into your power supply. You get a little white box. In that white box you have a little pump you can see right here. This pump is actually in order to pump some cooling water through the cylinder head to make sure it doesn't overheat and everything stays nice and cool within working temperature. Putting it to the side like this. What else you get in the bag is actually a plastic bag. And that's just about it. In that plastic bag you get some spare O-rings and some what looks like a dud, how do you call it, a male faster, and then a normal male faster to some screw threads from somewhere, together with some O-rings if there ever should be something with the compressor itself. You also get the tubing that is used together with that pump that connects to the compressor head at the top in order to pump the cooling water through the cylinder heads. You get yourself some of these. These are some extra filters, because it has a small filter which is an oil and water filter at the front before the air gets into your gun, which is a nice little feature. We can always recommend, of course, a little bigger one or a larger one with some how do you call this, carbon stuff inside. I have a bigger one upstairs that you connect between this and your gun, even to make sure if you run it for longer times your air stays dry and clean, of course. What else you get is two bleed screws that have to be installed somewhere, one on this side and one on the other side, I suppose, but all this is covered in the manual as well. That's all you get in the box, so let's take the compressor in front of us and have a close look around at all the details. Now the Vevor unit is quite transportable or portable, let's say like this. Its footprint is quite small, and as you can see it's nicely all closed in this enclosed enclosure, to say like this, in order to protect if ever might have something goes wrong or whatever. It's in a nice protect enclosure, and also when you transport it with you, put it somewhere in the back of your truck or your car, nothing gets damaged while transporting it as well, protecting your unit. Some other features on this Vevor unit is that all the tubing and the cylinder head here on the top, not really the cylinder head, but everything here on top and the pistons inside are made from some stainless steel to make sure that everything will last for a long time and can cope with all the pressures and the heat as well. The motor inside is a 1800 watt motor to make sure to get all this power needed in order to pump up your tanks or your guns as well. It's a two-stage pump as well, for some of you who might be interested as well. When you look at the top side here, we have a LED display displaying your pressure that your Vevor compressor is operating at, and the recommended pressure is between 50 and 70 degrees Celsius. All these 50 and 70 degrees Celsius you can control because the head of the Vevor compressor is water cooled. The water cooling goes with the two tubes and the pump you have seen, but this we will take a look later in the video how to set it up. You can do it with a bucket, you can use ice in order to keep it clean or whatever. I've seen even people making some kind of strange contraptions with extra fans, not even needing the water, but that's for something else. You get a nice liquid filled gauge here at the top to read the pressures that your compressor is currently operating at. Now the only thing this compressor doesn't have is an automatic shut off. It's a manual shut off, so you have to keep an eye at what pressure it is, and at the pressure or your desired pressure you have to put the compressor off by yourself. Very important, but I rather have that they skip this and not skip on some more components or durable components like the stainless steel and stuff. But it would be nice to see in the future if they would be able to add this auto on and off. You have, as I mentioned before, the integrated fill whip with the filter that's inside right here. It's already a very nice addition to add a filter on the end of the fill whip, but of course some extra filtration can never harm. I'm using like a 30 centimeter long one filled with not even these cotton things, but with some how do you call this, carbon little black stuff inside, in order to keep all the dirt and moisture out of my tank and my air guns, of course. What else kind of features we have on this unit? There is a special blow-off valve, so if there ever something should be going over temperature, this blow-off valve will open up. Nothing can happen to your compressor, nothing can happen then to your tank, and then therefore everything is much more safe to operate on. This is the spot where you have to put your oil, of course, very important. It's written even on this little paper right here to remove that plug and to put the breather plug inside. Very important not to damage your compressor. The two openings right here, the in and out for your liquid cooling that will go through the unit, and then you have two bleeds off, one on this side and one on this side as well, also trapping some of the air before it goes into your gun or your air gun. A really neat little unit. I'm looking forward to experiment with it and to fill up my tank, of course. So let me get it installed and fill up that 6.8 liter carbon fiber tank to 300 bar. So alright, I got everything set up. I have a neat little kitchen area, as I can say, in my garage, which is very practical. Otherwise you have to work with a little bucket and stuff to put your water. I can put my cold water in my sink and have everything connected. So I have put that little pump you see here into my sink. It is connected to the bottom side of the cylinder head, returning from the top, running into here. From the moment you put your pump in the electricity, it will put some water through it. And what I always try to do is to make sure that the return is on the opposite side of where the pump is, so it can always circulate between all the water, keeping as long as possible everything cool. On the LCD screen we can also see the voltage that comes out of my electricity. Always make sure you have done a 15 amp breaker into your circuit box. And as we can see, it is just shy of 23 degrees right here, which is pretty good operating temperature to start with, especially when we want to fill a bigger tank. What else you have to take in count? Make sure you have replaced that stop or plug that's on the oil filling side, and replace it with a breather. Very important to do so. Also as well, make sure you have filled it with the correct oil as specified in the manual to the correct level, so you make sure everything is running smooth and everything. So then it's as simple as opening up your bleeding screws, because we want to start up the compressor without any load, and then when it's running for a few seconds we can shut down the bleeding screws and then start filling our tank, of course. So normally I would run even a bigger moisture trap for this kind of filling tanks like this, but for the purpose of this video we'll go ahead with the standard one that's here, and afterwards we can also see how much moisture comes out of the block you see right here or on the other side. So let me quickly grab my tank and start the compressor. Right, so I have my tank connected. This is a 6.8 liter tank. Right at about it will be around 230 bar. So my working procedure will be start up the compressor without any load, opening up the bleed screws on both sides. Then after a few seconds I will start closing the bleed screws. Then I will see the needle here on top of the compressor going up, and right at about 230 bar then I will start opening up my valve on my tank, so I don't push too much pressure from my tank straight into the compressor before it's even ready to deliver this kind of pressure to me. So let's quickly check again if the water is running, which is very important to keep everything cool, of course. Bleed screws are open, and then it's just a matter of fact of starting up the compressor. Let me quickly put a timer on. Compressor will start to build up pressure. You can see right here 200 bar, 210, 220, 230. Open up the tank and let's keep filling. All right, we're right at 300 bar. Close up the tank. The compressor itself said about 310. My gauge says 300, and we're just shy of 25 minutes, which is pretty good for this little unit as well. Now let's bleed off the excess here. There is some moisture, of course, but as I do with my other compressor, every 10 bar more or less, I just bleed it off very quickly and then close it again to purge every time a little bit of the moisture. Let's check the connection as well. The connection is completely dry, which is good. That means that the filter is doing its job as well. Now I do recommend putting an extra moisture filter. You never know. This is very important to keep your guns running and staying clean. Something else to point out is that the temperature now is right at about 41.1 degrees. The maximum operating temperature is between 50 and 70, so we stayed well below this in 25 minutes, bringing this 6.8 liter tank from 230 to 300 bar in just shy of 25 minutes. As I said, it's more or less comparable to my bigger compressor, which is pretty good for this awesome little unit, especially in the price range it sells for. Don't forget, I have a link down in the description below if you want to support my channel a little bit and you're by coincidence looking for a compressor just like this. Please use the link, then you help me out just a little bit and you get yourself a very nice compressor for it as well. When storing it, I also recommend opening up both bleed screws so you can keep, if there should be any moisture left, that can always keep draining out and you don't get any corrosion in your connections as well. For the moment, I'm still cooling the unit as well. It already went down from 41 to now 39.1, so it's cooling down pretty quickly. Very nice unit from Vevor, as you can see. Really happy with this budget compressor, really impressed as well, filling up my tank so quickly. Pretty awesome. If you have a bigger compressor, maybe you want to use it as a backup, or you want to have this one as your main compressor for, what is it, less than 250 euros. Pretty sweet. So with that said, if you have any questions, please hit me up in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, use the link down below if you're interested in this Vevor compressor. I thank you for watching and I hope to see you back in the next one. Bye.